This was once a difference between Windows and Apple, the whole application frame. And so take a look at my screen really quickly. You can see if I click and move this whole thing around, everything moves around in totality. All of the palettes and the tools are all connected to this. And there is sort of an easel behind it that blocks out everything else, so I don't see all the other applications underneath this. That is the application frame. And so for me, it makes it really important to actually do this, to have it be this way. So I just want to start out with that part enabled. Then come up to the window menu again. Come down to workspace. It's the second one down, over to, and you will see there's a drop-down menu. I've got a couple of workspaces that are up at the top, one called Retouching 23 and another untitled. Those are my custom ones. Those, you won't have those. But you should have these. These are ones that are canned from Adobe. There's Essentials 3D, which is ironic because they've gotten rid of 3D in Photoshop now. Motion, painting, photography, graphic, and web. You would think that photography would work well for us. Sometimes when I look at the shit Adobe does, I don't think there are any photographers at Adobe. But at any rate, I'm going to start with Essentials, which is the default space. Now, when you change workspaces, and this is how you change them, when you change them, it's a two-step process. You will see that right now, because I've got Retouching 23 as my workspace, that this reset button says Retouching 23. I'm going to change this to Essentials, so I want everybody to do the same thing. Change your workspace to Essentials default. And you see that very little changes in this. You need to go right back up to Windows again, down to Workspace again, and now you will notice that instead of resetting being the Retouching 23, it says Reset Essentials. Click on that. So when you change workspaces, it's always a two-step process. You have to change the workspace and then you need to reset it. And that will always be the case. And this will be basically the typical Photoshop workspace that you guys are. It's the one that's shipped forever, and it's the one probably most of you guys use unless you've actually done a custom workspace. Now, the way I'm actually going to put this thing together is going to be slightly different than, so you guys have got that big white thing in the middle. What the hell is that? So it's a blank document. Do yourself a favor though, because this will get burned into your space. Mac, you're the same thing. Throw that, get rid of the document. So just, yeah, you can close it. Don't save it. They had this going. Oh, you had a white one as well? It's probably from that stupid opening screen that I just got rid of from Adobe. Again, that's just another thing. Here, let me give you a document that you don't neither need or want. Oh, great. Okay, so does everybody have something that looks basically like this? Okay, so first things first. Again, just check this really quickly to make sure, because I want to make sure all of this gets anchored. Make sure that that application frame has got a check mark next to it at the bottom of the Windows page. So first things first. If you come over and you look up on the upper right-hand side, there's a couple of little baby icons. If you click on the very top one, it's the history icon. And when you do it, a window will actually open up and you'll see it says history and then comments are next to it. If you grab the tab that says history, click on it and yank it off, it will actually tear it away. We're pulling it off from the other side, which is what I want to do. And I'm going to just move it over to the left-hand side and let it hang out for a while. We'll get to him later. The comment section is now also still expanded. Grab on the comment tab, pull it out as well. And when you do that, you'll notice that right above the word that says comment tab, there's a little X. If Adobe could only make that X a little bit smaller, I would be the happiest man in the world, right? They could get it so small I couldn't see it, which seems like the direction they're heading. Shit drives me nuts. You guys work with pages and shit and photo and everything across the way, all stuff electronic, right? Has there ever been an X to get you out of something this small? Ever? No. Why? It's like, okay, good luck. I hope I can hit it. Anyway, click on the X because we don't want comments. We just want to get rid of it. Come over now in color. We're going to grab, again, top right-hand corner. The color swatch that's what's visible to us right now. Not swatch, but the color tab. Click on the color tab, drag it out, click on the little X to get rid of it. Swatches, we're going to do the exact same thing. Click on the swatches tab, grab it, pull it out, click on the little X to get rid of it. And then finally, I'm going to do patterns. There's gradients and patterns or less. I'm going to do patterns, drag patterns out, click on the little X to get rid of it. Now, we need to hold off at this stage of the game. I can't get rid of gradients yet. I'm going to do it in just a second. But making this like this, this will allow us to anchor the things that we need anchored to the frame. If I get rid of gradients right now, I'm going to run into trouble getting anything anchored up to the top. So Properties tab, which is in the middle, I need you to grab the Properties tab and watch my screen really quick before you try this. I'm going to click and drag Properties up next to the word that says Gradients, and you'll see now I get a blue line that goes around the entire thing. That's telling me now that Properties is actually going to go into the same palette as Gradients, and they'll become two tabs, but in that anchored space. And then simply let go. I'll wait. Did this work for everyone? Then grab Gradients and drag that tab out and get rid of it. So we went through all of that because Properties now is anchored to the top right-hand corner without us going through an insanity to actually make that happen. So we're good there. And the tabs that are down now underneath this, Libraries is the next one. Now, I used to get rid of Libraries, but I'm actually started to use Libraries more, so I'm going to keep it. I want you to click on the Libraries tab, drag it up to the very top, right next to the Properties tab. Make sure you get the blue line that goes all the way around and let go. It will actually then become a tab up on that palette, but then click on Properties to make it foremost, because when we save this workspace, anything that's actually given priority, anything that you want to be working with more and not less, will be baked into the workspace that we save. So if we were to leave Libraries on the front and actually save that workspace, every time we open it up, Libraries would be on the top. We use Properties a whole lot more. How many people in this classroom use adjustments? This thing right here. Okay. I need everybody to create a new file really quickly. Just hit Command N or go up to the File menu and come down to New, and you will get this. Now, again, this is the older version. This is the legacy version that I use to do my new stuff. Again, I think this is a far superior one to the one that they've got right now. But regardless, whatever one you end up having, simply hit, I don't care what the number's in there, hit OK. All we need is some image to show you this. So does everybody have some kind of image? I don't care what it looks like. So I need you to now look at the bottom of your Layers palette. And at the very bottom of the Layers palette, you will actually see, I'm going to do the icons, the little icons that are at the bottom of the Layers palette. Make sure that the Layers tab is selected so that you can see what's at the bottom of that. There's a little garbage can on the far right-hand side. That's how you get rid of a layer. There is, in most cases, does anybody here not see a square with a plus in the middle of it right next to the garbage can? In older versions of Photoshop, that thing looked like a piece of paper with a dog-eared corner on it. So now I know that everybody's not working on old versions of Photoshop, which is great. Anyway, that's how you create a new blank layer. The little manila folder sort of thing that's right next to that is how you create a group. We'll deal with all of this stuff later. But the thing next to that looks like a circle that's half black and half white, if you click on that, you will get a fly-up menu that is all of your adjustment layers. So every single thing that you had in this adjustment layer palette sits right here. I need the real estate. I don't want to keep this adjustment palette. It's redundant. I can simply use that little icon at the bottom of the Layers tablet. It's much faster. It just works a whole lot better. So I don't need this adjustment layer part. I'm going to get rid of it. So I'm going to click over here to get rid of that part of it. However, I want to make sure that this Layers palette gets anchored right underneath my Properties. So I'm going to grab the Layers tab. I'm going to drag it up onto the Adjustment palette. Make sure that you get the blue line that goes all the way around it. let go, and then grab the adjustment tab, pull it out into the middle of your screen, and click on the X to get rid of it. You can also close up the image that you opened up. We don't need that part. We really shouldn't have that part anyway. So now my screen looks like this. I've got history all the way over on one side. I've got properties that are here, libraries. I've got layers underneath it, and then I've got channels and paths down at the bottom. We are going to take the path palette and drag it up and let it connect it to the layers tab, the layers palette. Then we are going to click on the layers tab to, again, make it the primary one, because we use paths in this room, in this class a lot, but we use layers in everything. Paths are secondary to that. So layers would be a primary importance here. And then grab your channels tab and tear it off completely. Just simply drag it out. We have now built the right side. So look at this screen really quickly, and if yours doesn't look like this, let me know. Oh. Say what? Oh, no, channels stays alive. Just pull channels over. No, don't hit the X on channels. Although, wait. If you did, go ahead and hit the X on channels. No. Everybody should know this. Hit X on the channels to get rid of it. If you want to get it back, come up to the window menu at the top and simply come down to channels. All the things that we've gotten rid of, we can easily bring back. They're all right here. And it'll just bring channels back. So if you make a mistake, you lose something, it doesn't matter. All you need to do is go to the windows, come down and say. So if you click on the windows and take a look at all the things that are checked, these are the things that we have. We have the channels palette, history, layers, properties, and library should be in there. Libraries is there, but they don't see it. That's interesting. Anyway, that's how you get them back. Okay. I'm going to move history out of the way a little bit. The next one we need to go after is something that's invisible to us. So click on the Windows tab, come down to Info, and it will bring up the Info palette, and it will usually connect it to the right-hand side. You can see there's actually was a small little Info tab already there. Grab your Info tab and pull it off to the side. It gets rid of it off of there. We need to anchor this Info palette to the top next to next to the toolbar up in the top left-hand corner. So take a look at it. Watch my screen really quick to see how this happens, because there is no anchor up at the top. You're only going to see it on the side, but I'm going to click and start to, I'm going to actually click on the tab. It usually works better instead of just you could click on the very top and move things, but I'm going to grab the tab, pull it over, and you will see that you get a solid blue line that comes down, and let go. That's now telling you that you have actually anchored the Info palette to the tool palette on the side, which is great. What's not great about this is that it's giving me, and the reason the Info palette is giving me all of this extra space is we can start laying down color readout points like indefinitely for, you can put static points on your image that will give you color readouts, and it's all shown to you in the Info palette. So this thing can expand greatly. That's why it's so big right now. I don't need it this big, and as a matter of fact, I want to put history underneath this. So you would think that you would grab history and drag it down to the bottom. You don't. Do you see the line right sort of in the middle, right here, of the Info palette? That's what is considered the actual bottom of it. So grab the history tab, drag it till it just touches that line that's right underneath Info. You'll get the solid blue line again, and let go. And now you've got history is underneath the Info palette. However, now channels, you would think, well, where's the line in history? There isn't one. So grab channels is going to go underneath history. Grab the channels tab and drag it all the way down to the bottom. And you'll notice, it's really hard to see it on my screen, but underneath on the very bottom, you should get a blue line. And if you let go, you will now have channels sitting underneath your history. Did this work for everyone? We're almost home. So for me, I'm going to do a little cleanup here. I personally like to see more layers. I've got more than enough room for my properties. Properties are when you put a curve on something, it shows you the curve. I mean, that's what it's all about. Or a hue saturation layer, it just shows you all the controls for hue saturation. That's what's going on in properties. But if you hover your cursor over the line where those two palettes meet, you'll see that you get a double-headed arrow, and that allows you to control the height of the palettes. So you can click and drag slightly up, and I'm just going to do this to bring it up just a little bit so I get a little bit more room for my layers, a little less for my properties, and that part on this side's working great. I need to do the same thing on the other side. I've got a little too much history and not enough channels, so I'm going to click on the line where the channels palette meets the history, and I'm going to drag him up a little bit as well. And it's sort of a compromise. I try to get them roughly about all the same size, the three that are on that side. We're almost done. We need to add one last actual element to this, and the last element we're going to add to this is Actions palette. So come up to your window, down to Actions, and it'll actually open it up, and I've got an Actions palette with comments next to it. They're really into the comment thing. I'm going to grab the comment tab, tear it off, and get rid of it by closing it. And then I'm going to grab the Actions tab and drag it on top of my History palette and let go. And then finally click on the History to make it the primary palette. So this is my custom workspace. So I've got info at the top, followed by a History Actions palette with History on top, Channels palette by itself. On the opposite side, I've got Properties and Libraries at the top with Properties, the uppermost visible. And then finally underneath that, Layers and Paths, and Layers is on top, the most visible. Does anybody not have this? Oh, shoot. No. No, there's a lot of tricks about getting around really quick. I'm showing you what I use and what you will see in all the videos. If you want to add and modify this, go ahead. And I've had people in here, not many, but people in here who hate this. But I also have people who send me fan mail about this workspace years after they've left this class. So it's up to you. But again, navigation for me is, we'll look at how I navigate. I think you might find it faster than the navigation panel. Okay, we're almost done, but not quite. So last things that we're going to do, I need to come over to the Layers palette, and on the Layers palette all the way over here, now I'm going to say this right now because I know this from experience. None of you are going to do this. And you're stupid if you don't. And none of you are stupid. I'm going to change the thumbnail previews of all your layers, paths, everything else so that they're big. You cannot believe the amount of information that you can get if you actually get it up in a reasonable size that you cannot get with that small little layer thing. You don't even know if it's the layer that you think it is. It's so small. It's almost as small as that damn little X. So at any rate, to change that, come all the way over to the little three lines that represent a drop-down menu on the far right side of the Layers palette. Click on it. And if you come down to the very bottom, it says Panel Options. Click on Panel Options and select the radio button next to the largest of the thumbnails. Look at the difference in those sizes. They send you, by default, you get the small one. This, you can actually see something. You'll be shocked. You can actually see paths in your thumbnails of this. So at any rate, I use that. If you hate it, get rid of it. If you really are angry at your roommate and you want to fuck with them, I will tell you all sorts of tricks all along about how to do that. But go into their Photoshop and go to this place and click None on all of their little thumbnail icons, and it will all go away, and they will not have any idea how to get it back. They will tear their hair out trying to figure out how to get it back. And you can smugly sit in your room and laugh. Anyway, select the big thumbnail, say OK. We're going to do the same thing for Path, so click on the Path tab. Same thing, click on that little drop-down the little menus on the far right side, come down to Panel Options, put the radio button next to the largest of the paths, say OK. Make sure that you reactivate the Layers part, because when we save this, we want the things that we want prominent to be prominent. Come over to your Channels palette. In the Channels palette, you still have the same three little lines on the thumb. Do the same drop-down, go to Panel Options, click the thumbnail next to the biggest of them, the radio button next to the biggest thumbnail, say OK. And then finally, and if you haven't done that because you didn't listen to me, this next thing is really important. Come up to your History tab and click on the 3 little lines to the right of the History tab, and you will get a drop-down menu. You do not get panel options here. What you do is you get History options. You need to select that. And in the History options, you need to make sure that these 3 things are checked. Automatically create first snapshot is by default, but automatically create new snapshot when saving is not on. You need to check that. And then also show new snapshot dialog by default. You need to turn that part on as well and say, okay. Eureka. We've now created our own custom workspace. So if you come up to the window menu now and come down to workspace, you can come over and down to new workspace. So I think it should say save, but it doesn't. It just says new workspace. It's going to open up and you need to give it a meaningful name. So I'm going to call mine Retouching. I like prime numbers. So I've had Retouching 23 forever, but I haven't added the library, so I'm going to do Retouching 29. And you do not need to do shortcuts, menus, or toolbars because we haven't done any custom work on that part at all. So just go ahead and say save that. Now when you actually look at it, come up to your window menu down to workspace, you will see that up at the very top it says Retouching 29. If we go down to Essentials again, so come up to again, Window, down to Workspace Essentials and pick Essentials. Go back up to Window, to Workspace and reset Essentials. It's the original workspace, the place we started with in all of this. But now if you come up to the window menu, down to Workspace, and you pick whatever name you just named it, I name mine Retouching 29, click on that, and then again, back up to Window, down to Workspace, and reset 29, you're good to go. So that might actually be an interesting one if you want to add navigation to this whole mix. Build a workspace that's got navigation with it and one that doesn't. You can have infinite number of these. Okay, to find out where that guy is, again, if we take a look at our website, I'm going to go to sources number 1, session 1 resources, preference locations, and although it's going to be all the way at the bottom because it's going to be listed as workspaces. So down at the workspaces, this is where it's actually going to be at the very bottom. And again, for the Windows people, just go to the next section down. It'll be down at the very bottom. Now you would think that Windows Modified would be what we're looking for. It's actually not. It's this workspaces right here, and it's going to be the name that you gave it. And this is actually where it's located. So it's located in that same library preference Adobe Photoshop settings folder where we just found the preference settings. It's going to be in the very same place. So again, mine is in the very same place right here. If you go down to the bottom of the settings, there are 2 folders. One is called Workspaces. The other is Workspaces Modified. I always thought what we just did was modify it, but no. Anyway, it's just regular workspaces. You'll see here is my retouching29.psw. Again, you do not want to remove this from this place because if you remove it, it will not be available to you anymore. Click and drag it to copy it to your desktop or wherever you want to put it. Hold down the Option key before you do so that you get the little plus and let go and you will be off to the races. And again, instead of ever having to build that again, simply put that file into this place on any computer and that workspace will be available to you. Are we good on this? Okay, Verser, let's fucking do some work. I do this all the time, so, okay, so everybody got the files for our assignments copied, right? All right, so I want to go look at those really quick. So if you can find that folder that you copied and look in your session number 1. inside that session number 1, you will hopefully have at the very bottom a thing that says red_car.psd. Can everybody find that file? Hope it's in there. It is. If you'll double click on that and open this guy up, and then it comes into your screen like this. So this is a couple of tricks that I love about this that might help you out with navigation as far as this part goes. So I've got this little bitty car that comes up in here, right? And I don't know about you guys, but I'm always constantly frustrated with when I'm actually doing retouching, when all of a sudden a palette will cover part of my image. So my image can go underneath or on top of something, whatever, and it screws me up, right? That will never happen. So I want everybody to come over to your toolbar, and down sort of at the very bottom, there's the little hand that's right above the magnifying glass. Simply double click on the hand. That image now is as large as it can be in this workspace without losing anything. And this is dynamic. If you do this, oh, that's another one Mac just showed me here really quick. I need everybody first, see where the whole application frame where it says Adobe Photoshop up at the very top? Go just to the right of Adobe Photoshop and double click really quick. It makes your Photoshop workspace as large as it can possibly be. So here, take that top part, drag it down for a little bit, sort of move it around a little bit, and then again, just go up to that same space at the top and double click, and it will snap right back up to be as large as it can possibly be. If you get rid of the dock, it will actually fill that space as well. So now I've got an automatic way to get all of my stuff reset up as big as it can be, and double clicking on the hand gets my image as big as it can possibly be. If you double click on the magnifying glass right underneath it, it will take your image to 100%. But again, this double click to immediately get it big and know that I am not having a problem here in terms of being able to see this entire image. Does that make sense, everybody, what's going on? Did that work for everyone? Yes. Okay, all right. I need everybody to look up at my screen again really quickly. I'm going to show you this. You probably have oh, actually you do have the same thing. So do me a favor. I'm just wanting to show you what was really going on. Go to your class number 2 assignments. Go into that number 2, and inside that you should have a folder sort of near the top. Again, I always do mine in columns, so however you guys want to navigate, that's fine. But it's just easiest for me to find it this way. There is a folder inside your files from session number 2 the folder is called 20100327_Verser_Woods07. Can everybody find that guy? Again, it's this folder right here. So session number 2. And the folder says 20100327_VE. Just look for Woods07 at the very end of it. Can everybody find that part? Inside of that, there will be a single, there's a single file called, only look for the CR2 files. There's a CR2 file 001, and then there's a CR2 file 002. I want you to double click on the one that says, blah, 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 Woods_07_002. And this will actually bring it up into Camera Raw. So did everybody get this image of a girl lying on a mirror in Camera Raw? Oh, you double clicked on it and you are now set up. This is set up to actually run Capture One as the default. So how many of you went into something other than Photoshop? Okay, whatever you are in, close it. I'm going to change this for you. Does this happen to you on your computers? You double click on a raw file and it goes into Preview, or it goes into Capture One, or it goes into... I'm going to show you how to fix that if that has actually happened. So quit out of Capture One and need everybody to... You can stay. For those of you who are already in Camera Raw, stay there. For the rest of you, or for anyone, come back into the Finder. We need to find that file. So that CR2 file, click on it once, Don't double click to launch it, just select it. Hit Command I, it will open up that same info dialog box, and down at the bottom you will actually see a place where it says Open With. You can change this Open With, it's a drop down menu. You can change it to Open with Lightroom, open blah 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 blah. You want your raw files to open in Photoshop, and yours was set to open in Capture One, wasn't it? So you need to change it to say Open Photoshop, and again, you can pick any of the Photoshops, so that part doesn't matter. But the important part is that that will only do it for this one file. If you want this to happen for all of your raw files, click on the Change All button that's right underneath that, and every raw file from this point on that you double click on will open up in Photoshop. Yeah? To do what with it? Yeah, why not? Yeah, I mean, if you're always going into Photoshop with that stuff, why not? Okay, and then double click on it and it should open up into Camera Raw. Okay, so for the rest of you who are already in Camera Raw, this is what I wanted to show you. I want you to scroll down on, I'm in the basic panel right now. I want you to scroll down till you get to Optics. So there's an Optics control, again, right-hand side, inside of Camera Raw. This is a raw file that we're actually doing. Click Optics Open, and inside of Optics Open, you will actually see there's two tabs inside of this. One that says Remove Chromatic Aberration. Don't hit that one yet. The next one says Use Profile Corrections, and underneath it, you will see Lens Profile, and it lists the Canon file. It is an EF 24-70 f2.8 lens. The profile was generated by Canon. All of that information is being picked up from the metadata in this. Uncheck that Use Profile Correction and watch what happens to the file. This file suffers from barrel distortion. So you see, if you turn it off, it makes the center of the file seem like it's coming more out of the screen to you. That is a mistake in the lens design and manufacture. It also takes care of vignetting. If you'll notice when you actually turn it back on, that the corners of all of this get lighter because, again, this is a wide angle lens. It suffers from vignetting. That's something that's done automatically because we set that up in Camera Raw preferences to be automatically done. Wouldn't you want your file corrected like, wouldn't you want all of them corrected like that? Then why does Adobe not make that the standard default? But they don't. I now need everybody to zoom in to the top left corner. I'm into this area right here. The lower right corner where you see a bunch of limbs reflected in the mirror. And I need you to zoom in even more. So click on your little drop-down menu and come into like 400% to that area. You can actually, 400% will probably do it. And what I'm looking for is an area here of just small little branches and that kind of stuff. Uncheck Remove Chromatic Aberration and look what happens. If you look on the right side of all the image elements on a contrasty side, you pick up a green cast. If you're really good and you know what to look for, on the opposite side, on the left-hand side, is a magenta cast. That is chromatic aberration. When I first did this file, this Remove Chromatic Aberration automatically did not exist, and I retouched every single one of those branches by hand. It took me weeks. Fucking turn off Remove Chromatic Aberration and they're gone. Wouldn't you want that always on your files? Right? So that's why we've set the default up the way we have. You can cancel out of this and go back to the car. So I'm going to put a timer on. I'm going to give you guys a minute. So everybody, does everybody have the car up? The red car? Anybody not? You can just get rid of this. So click to close that tab. Get rid of it, and the same on that one. And then save that. And then go to the folder that you copied of for our assignment files. Go to complete assignments. Yep, and double click on that. It should open up in the floor set and you're good to go. If you double click on the hand really quick, and you got the big car. Okay, so I'm going to put a minute on my clock, and in that minute I want you to turn that car green. Is everybody up for that challenge? We're not going to beat it to death, but is everyone ready? Are we good? Okay, go. You got 10 seconds. Time's up. How'd we do? So I need everybody to stand up and let's just take a look around. That's great. Everything is green except for the car, but that's actually pretty funny. How we do? All right, so beginning, kind of start, whatever, much better. And so how did this happen? Hue and saturation, right? Good start. Great start. That's okay. Good start. A lot of, maybe you guys don't color theory here is a little more challenging. There is a difference in green and red. You guys all? Just kidding. Just kidding. There's a lot of red cars here, which is fun. There's a lot of green cars here. So again, how do we do it? Yeah, hue saturation on there. So, but great. Selected the color range first and then did it. Good job. Okay, so varying degrees of success. So I need somebody to get out their timer and time me. And I'm going to show you how I would turn the color of this car to green. So, why don't I have a preview actually showing in this? Okay, so somebody got a timer? Somebody just say go.
3, 2, 1, go.
Stop.
17 seconds.
And I had to resize my palette because that wasn't set right? So why do I do this? This is my buy-in to you. This is my beg to you to suffer through the color theory part with me, just to stick this out with me. I can change everything for you. I can give you a career. No, I'm serious. What teacher have you been with, whatever, that said, I can promise you a career? Now, I'm only half of that equation. The flip side of this is that you have to do the work. And I'm begging you. I am begging you to stay with me. I'm begging you to do the work. If you really do that, you cannot believe what this can open up for you. And I say that from experience. I used to never say this. I was never that. I mean, it sounds like I'm bragging. I was never that, but I have got legions of people out there who have got successful, thriving careers. This is a part of it. I'm not trying to talk you into being a retoucher. This may only ever apply to your own work. There may not be any of that stuff, but you'll know how to do it, or at least you'll be able to talk to somebody who, to have the conversation with somebody that you're going to have do it for you, whatever it is. But This can change so many things. And I can promise you, there is nobody at this school right now, well, not nobody, but it's a handful of people maybe who understand what I just did, who know what this is. You will get it all. So now you're dying to know how I did this, aren't you? All right, so if you've done this correctly, go back up to your history palette and click on it. Make sure it's the active one. And if you look up at the very top of your history palette, right underneath the thing where it says redcar.psd, you can actually click on that or click on the open part underneath it. It will take you all the way back in history. And we can actually do this. So this is what this is the way I'm going to do it. Now this is, because we don't have time for a lot of color theory tonight. As a matter of fact, we don't have any time for color theory. I want to look at a couple of other things here first, though, that we can still go over. And then we'll call it a day. We'll pick up color theory next week. But there are color spaces that we've talked about in the world. RGB is probably the most famous one. Adobe RGB is an RGB color space, but the Adobe part of it just establishes things about like its size, how big it is, what parts of the reds are included. You know, it's sort of like, it just describes the space. LAB is a different space. The advantage of LAB is, though, LAB, unlike RGB, is that LAB separates luminosity from color. So most of you guys know this. And well, here, let's just try this really quickly. We might as well play with this a little bit. I want you to add a curve on top of this before we do any change here at all. We're just going to come here. I'm going to, again, click on the little icon at the bottom, the circle that's half black, half white, and just come up and say you want to add a curve to this. And the curve will come up in your properties palette, which is exactly what we want to actually have happen here. I'm going to click on the drop-down menu up here at the very top that says RGB, and I'm going to pick just the red channel by itself. And I'm going to then click right in the middle. That's because you're on pads. Go back to layers. It's all right. Anyway. I'm going to click right in the middle of my red channel line right here. I'm going to click and I'm going to drag it and I'm going to pull it down. And you can see that I'm actually sucking red out of it. That's what this is doing. It's subtracting red. But also look at the tone of the car. It's made the car darker. Now, a lot of people know that you can set blending modes to change that so that it only affects the color and not the luminosity part of it. However, it's a cheat. In Photoshop, well, it's not really a cheat, but there is a true way of doing this in terms of doing color correction that works infinitely better than this, because again, what happens in RGB is that luminosity, which is the tonal structure of your image, and color are inextricably locked together. If you change one, you change them both. You cannot not do that without using a blending mode. So instead, you can throw that curve away. I want everybody to take a look over here on their channels palette, and if you click on the red channel, you'll see it looks like a mask. It is a layer mask. It's what's controlling how much red is actually comes through on this image. And again, most of you guys know about masking. Who here does not know about at least a little bit about masking? Okay, so in a mask that we work with, typically white reveals, black conceals. If you've got part of a layer mask that's white, it allows whatever is being masked to be shown to you. Whatever's black on your mask, you don't see. The same thing happens in channels. They just use masks to control the amount of red that's actually hitting this image. So you see how light the car is. That's because a whole lot of red is being pushed into this image. However, if you click down on the green channel, you'll see that the green is actually really dark in that same area, because green is the opposite of red, and so there's not a lot of green in that. Again, the mask is controlling the amount of green that actually hits the car. But again, both of these, all three of them, the RGB guys, when you change one, you don't only change the color, you change the luminosity, you change the tone of the image. Make sense? All right, so instead of doing that, you can click the RGB channel that's up at the very top, come up to your image menu, down to mode, and a crossover and down to LAB. Now this is not called lab. There are people who will mistakenly call it lab. That's just like calling RGB Nobody calls RGB Rug. Everybody calls lab. Everybody who knows what they're doing, whatever, calls it LAB. It's not lab. Just so that you know, I want all you guys walking into those places impressing people with your depth of knowledge and your expertise. So anyway, we're going to change it to LAB. And then look what happened over in your channels palette. If you click on, you'll notice it's not RGB anymore. It's actually L, which they call lightness. They actually spell it out. And then there's an A channel and a B channel. So if you click on the lightness, you'll see it's the entire structure. It's the entire tonal structure of the car. It's the luminosity of the car, all of it. But if you click on the A channel, you'll see it's this like ghosty, I don't know, thing, whatever. This is controlling the red magenta, or the red green or the magenta green axis of the color of this car. If you go down to the B, this is actually controlling the blue yellow axis, and between the two of them they describe all the color of the car. So go back up to the top, click on LAB again. We're going to add a curve again on this one, just like we did before. So come over to the little icon at the bottom, the circle that's half black, half white. Click on it, come up and say, I want to put a curve on this. And you'll notice in your drop-down menus now, up at the top in your properties panel, you have those same things. They correspond exactly to the channels. You have the lightness at the very top. I don't want to change that. That's the whole trick to this. I don't want to change the tonality of this. I just want to change the color. If we come down to the A channel, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to invert this curve, making everything the opposite. So anything, again, this only controls the red green, the red magenta part of the image. It doesn't touch the blue yellow part of it. So if you grab the point at the bottom, at the 0, point, click on it and drag it all the way up to the top. You add a ton of magenta to this. Then grab the white point, what would be the white point, all the way on the top right-hand side and drag it all the way down. We just inverted the curve, which inverted the color. But we didn't touch the luminosity. So when we get into doing serious color correction in this class, we work in LAB. We do not work in RGB. And look how fast that was. No mask, no fuss, yes. So if you don't want it to affect the background, we'll use your trick. I love this, right? There's a million ways of doing this. The easiest way to do this is to get rid of the mask that's already on there, because I'm going to build a selection and add a mask. But if you've already got a mask on it, then it becomes tricky. It's like, well, how do I put the selection that I did on the mask, and should it be black or should it be, just throw the mask away. So grab the mask here and just throw it away. You can delete it. Go to your quick selection tool. And the thing about the quick selection tool, we're a little further ahead of where I want to be, but just remember this about the quick selection tool. It finds edges, but you don't ever want it to touch the edge you want it to find. So for instance, I wanted to find the top edge of this car, but I cannot let the tool touch that edge, much less go across that edge, or it's going to look for an edge further out. So you need to stay inside the selection the whole time, and so I'm just going to do a rough selection of the car. You don't really need to worry about the tires because they picked up no color at all. If you overshoot, like I've overshot on this one, you can see I've got the shadow on the ground underneath it. Hold down the Option key and you will notice that the plus inside the quick selection tool will change to a minus, and simply drag along underneath the shadow part of the bottom of the car and then add just a little bit more on the top. We can get rid of the shadow that's underneath the car right there as well. So it's a reasonably good selection of it all. We can modify it later with a brush if we need to. And then back over on your layers palette, next to the icon that adds adjustment layers, the one that has the circle that's half black, half white, just to the right of that, there's a box that's got, it's a white box that's got a little dark hole in it. That's how you add a layer mask, and simply click on Add Layer Mask. And now you got a green car and red bricks. And to be honest with you, the first half of this semester is about building really good selections, and this would not be the way to do it. Any other questions about this? Yes. No. If it's saying add vector mask, so if you click on add mask the first time, there's two types of mask. One is a pixel mask, which is what we just added. But if you click a second time, I'll show you. You'll add this other thing over here, which is a vector mask that is something that would be created from a path. So if you, again, wanted to modify this, I'm going to get rid of the vector mask. If you wanted to modify this, you can always go in and select the mask. And it's missing this whole part of the car up here. You can go in and paint on that. You can do all sorts of things. The mask is still editable. Okay. Finally, everybody go back to our Canvas site really quickly. We're almost done. So again, in several different places. If you click on the syllabus link that's at the very top, you will see that what is going to be due for next Tuesday, September 13th, is assignment number 1, which is introduce yourself, attach a picture, and apply to 2 posts. It's basically just a discussion forum. The second one is to set up your own system, and there's no way I can look at this or grade this, whatever. This is to take the color settings that we've done, take the preferences that we've done, take the workspace, custom workspace, whatever, put those into your own working environment, your laptop, your desktop at home, whatever it is you use. If you don't use any of that stuff, you don't need to worry about this assignment. And the third one is to start the readings that are in the course number 1 part. So if you click on any one of these, it will take you right to it and then say, okay, this is the assignment. I need to read the stuff that's in session number 1, and it's this color primer. It's where to start. If you don't want to do it that way, simply go to your modules page, and it's the same thing. It's these 3 assignments right here. You can click on any one of them. It's not going to take you long. This will be the easiest assignment you do, easiest group that you do all semester. All right, are there any questions about any of this? So, I have a question. How are we doing? Is there anybody in here who's like, oh God, I'm in over my head nervous? Okay, so this is a promise I make to every one of these classes, and you guys will be no exception to this, and I will make it to you. I will get you through this. You need to reach out to me if you're struggling. We'll find time, we will meet out, we will find a way to get you through this. But that's on you. Fair? I'll see you guys next week. The videos for tonight from today will probably be up tonight. If not, they'll be up tomorrow.